Hello and welcome to the Get Online podcast. Today I am joined by Cheryl Laidlow, who is hugely passionate about making technology accessible and enjoyable to small businesses. But as we know, sadly, a lot of people actually find it very confusing and overwhelming, which is actually what led her to starting her website in a day brand. So that's right, Cheryl brings brands to life, getting a responsive website planned and live all in one day. Pretty impressive, right? She's been awarded the Small Business Sunday by Theo Paphitis Award. That was in 2018. She's been shortlisted as a Woman of the Future. She is one of the F Entrepreneurs Ialso Top 100 and is the winner of the Digital Rising Star Award. She is brilliant, and I was so excited to speak to her today. We get into all sorts around business processes, around how she does build a website in a day, and quite a few other little funny things too. So I hope you enjoy the show. Welcome to the show, Cheryl.
Hello, thank you for having me.
You are so welcome. I'm so excited to be chatting with you today.
Absolutely.
How are you doing?
I'm very well. I've been also looking forward to today's sesh.
Good. I have quite been enjoying your morning Instagram stories and your walks with Sid, your dog. That's been quite a lot of entertainment for me throughout lockdown.
Why, thank you very much.
I believe he's on holiday right now, is he?
Oh, he just got back.
He just got back.
Yes.
Where has he been?
He's been to Scotland.
Wow, what a lucky puppy.
I know, like seeing the family, as little pooches do,
Yeah, I love it. He's so great. You're so great at all of your marketing. We're going to get right into that a little bit later on. But why don't we begin by you telling us a little bit about yourself and how you got started, and then what led you to start Website in a Day?
Ooh, okay. So I have always been a web and graphic designer. I fell into a job. I say fell because I literally put out a message to anyone that would have me as an intern, like, please take me on. So I stayed with a creative agency for about 4 or 5 years. And then I decided, right, I'm going to start it alone in the crash in 2007 or 2008.
Yes.
What a great time to start a business, right?
So many people did, didn't they?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
my wages were down.
Yeah.
We had to take a car. I was like, this is not the one. Like, I need to... I have my own vision here, and I've got goals, and I got things to do. Like, I haven't got time
to take more control too, right? You have more
exactly. And I think when you're young as well, I was 26. Don't get me wrong, I was scared, but I had less fear. And as you get older, I've noticed, well, myself personally, that things just get scarier as you get older. I don't know, the more responsibility you have, and so I started, about 10 years ago now. So, doing, creative agency stuff, a bit of everything, a bit of logo creation and web design, a bit of graphic design, a bit of social media, because obviously 2007 was when Facebook was coming into its own. And then, of course, throughout the years, Instagram, LinkedIn, and then of course had to know and be in the know. So I ended up doing a bit of everything. It wasn't really until about 2015 when I established Website in a Day. And the reason why that came around was purely because it just took so much time to get the content from my clients. And the backwards and forwards with emails, trying to get content, trying to sort of coach them. Whereas if you sit with them in a day, you're giving up your time, they're giving up their time to dedicate this one day of, creating their website that they should be proud of. So that came into itself in 2015. And I've been doing them ever since.
Yeah, you haven't looked back. Love it. I didn't realize that. So your customers actually sit with you while you do that development in a day.
Absolutely,
Wow,
yes.
that's, a lot of people will be thinking that's quite brave. I don't know if I'd be super excited to do that with a lot of our clients.
I know. Well, it's either that, it's basically about holding them accountable.
Mm,
It's not really about being quick or being fast and getting the website done quickly. It's more about you getting my time, because that's what, you'd get
yeah, of
about
course.
it, it would be done in bits, like they'd send like the homepage
Oh,
content,
no. Yeah.
and then the following week they might send you the about page, and I'm like, no, none of that. No, 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 no. You give it to me all in one day, and it has to be done before the day. So they get deadlines,
Yeah.
and then we
Yeah.
sit down. So of course, it's since lockdown we've been doing it over Zoom,
Of course. Yeah. How's
and
that working?
that's worked really well for me, to the point where I'm like, I might just adapt this.
Well, also, it must open up your audience massively, because then it's not just because I don't remember exactly where you're based, but I think you work a lot out of this central London, don't you? So,
Yes,
that opens you up to the rest of the country, I suppose, doesn't it?
absolutely. Global.
Global
Absolutely.
even, Cheryl. Yes. Okay, awesome. Well, I absolutely love it. I think I see absolutely rave reviews from all of your customers. They are obsessed with you and your websites, and they always look so beautiful whenever I see you share your case studies.
Oh,
So you obviously do a
thanks.
brilliant job. I just find it so fascinating to be able to understand how to build this brand website in a day, and to build a website in a day. A lot of people are just like, oh my God, how? Like, even, in our agency, we do websites and we'll say 7-day turnaround, because for us, it's like, thought of doing it in one day, it's just like quite overwhelming, to be honest. So I expect, in order for you to be able to do that so successfully, you must be completely process driven or system driven. Like, how does that look in your business?
Yes, exactly that. I have to have a process with everything, to the point where they touch base and say, I'm interested. I will ping them back. I've got a template email that
Mm-hmm.
I send to all my interested respective clients and say, yeah, great, love to have you if you'd like to fill out my questionnaire so I
Mm-hmm.
can find out a little bit more about your business. And I give them the option. You can either do this in the privacy of your own, home, or we can jump on a Zoom call and we can do it together.
Hmm.
They usually just want to see the processes. And then again, the process, if they haven't been on my website, I pop that in the email as well, to say this is a little bit more about how I work, or to remind you, or if you haven't read my website, you will notice that this is how I work, so that they know, the process of how it goes.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, we always work to a deadline. So that will be the website in the day.
Yeah.
So, when are you looking to get this live? Some people are like, oh, no rush.
No, we'll give you a deadline.
Yeah, we'll totally give you a deadline. Yeah, so it's, the template emails and everything that goes out. The only thing that's not templated is the websites.
So good. Yeah, because I think that's everything, isn't it? I think I just love that you've got these, well, maybe rules isn't like a great word, but we'll call it process.
Yeah,
Process
rules.
sounds better.
We'll call them rules.
All
I'm
right,
quite
rules.
strict.
Yeah, but I think that's important, isn't it? Because it's not only for yourself in terms of your own ability to be able to manage multiple projects in one go, because that's everybody's challenges, but also for the clients too, because then they understand, their expectations are set, because you've said, this is how it happens, you do A, B, C, D,
Yep.
this is the deadline, and this is how it works. And then
Yes.
essentially, if they don't follow that, then they're not a client.
Absolutely. I mean, some people say to me, oh, do you work with a particular industry? And don't get me wrong, I do work with more medical than I do, say, I don't know, beauty, or, but I don't particularly, I can be working with a builder one week, and then an architect, a hairdresser, to a surgeon the next. So I don't really have a industry,
Yeah.
but that I prefer to work with, because obviously I love being creative within different industries.
Yeah.
But I do work with a particular personality.
Yes, tell me more.
So 9 times out of 10, my clients are energetic and they're go-getters and they're excited about the process with me. There's nothing more that I love than receiving the email, to say, I can't believe we're doing this on Wednesday, or I can't believe I'm going to have my website live by 5:30 on Friday. This is so exciting.
That's so cool, yeah.
They've already got the content to me, they've picked their images, or even better, they've gone and had a professional photography session with one of my recommended photographers, and we just sit down, and the gratitude that I get from them lifts me up.
Yeah,
and
of course.
Obviously,
well, it's so important. You've got to be excited about what you're doing, right?
Absolutely. So I definitely do attract a high energy.
That's sort of the type of person. I think that's so interesting, because maybe we could talk a little bit about niching, actually, because what I find is, from a marketing perspective, so obviously, as you know, we run a digital marketing agency. From a marketing perspective, we're always pushing our clients to niche into something, because that is a much easier pitch or sell or something to market. However, I actually love what you've said there around type of personality, and I actually completely resonate with you on that, because there's a counter piece, I think, to niching. So while it's amazing for marketing and it's amazing for clarity, so that customers can actually understand, okay, I'm the right person to be working with Cheryl, the challenge is if you do niche down too much, you almost potentially put yourself at risk, I guess, of that industry doesn't do well. I think we've just experienced this throughout lockdown, right? So certain industries have been hit much harder than others. And I know of marketing agencies that specialize, for example, in hospitality. And actually for them, it's been awful. I read a book last year called Get Online. So I think you know that already. So I've actually found like a lot of people are just like, I know that you're the person I need to go to get online. And it hasn't really mattered like about the industries. And although even for us as a business, we work kind of across 4 main industries, so like tech, healthcare, sales, and property, we still have so much that falls outside of those sectors. So it's not about, even if I am niching and speaking on a certain subject, you don't miss out on the business. Like, you still get the business. It's just that it helps people to understand what it is that you do. And I think the other thing that's sort of cool about what you've said around you love working with those sorts of energetic, those go-getter type people, and focusing more on the personality type is, you kind of mentioned it at the beginning where you said, it's always funny when people ask you, do you niche into a special sector? Because if you said, yes, I only work with doctors or medical people, and then somebody that you've built a website for is then a competitor of that direct person, then that's a conflict. So it's like, pick and choose. Is it that you want me to niche into this medical sector, or is it but I'm not allowed to work with any of your competition? So I think there's sometimes niching, I think, is just like a really interesting subject. I don't know if you've got an opinion on that, or what you think is a good thing to do, because I think it's something people get really, really confused about.
Absolutely. And don't get me wrong, I do believe in the power of niching. I believe that it can bring very good in terms of marketing and your audience. It streamlines every process. Don't get me wrong. What I found interesting about working in the medical industry is that when one of my medical websites goes live, I then get an influx of about 5 to 10, whether it be physios or surgeons, actually start following me on all my channels. And you know what they say, you're only as good as the last piece of work you did. So in that terms, I'm quite happy to take on, a few more clients in that particular industry.
I guess I'm wondering, like, I guess for website development, maybe it's less of an issue in terms of conflict of interest, if you know what I mean, because I mean, you're positioning them, aren't you, rather than, I can appreciate, I guess, from a marketing or advertising perspective, when people are thinking about it, they're like, well, if you're running this type of ad for me, are you running that for them as well? And are we just cannibalizing each other? Like, what's happening?
Absolutely. I mean, it's great. I mean, that's probably why I don't specialize in medical, purely because I'd be bored, if I'm honest. Like, I love my I that I work with, but I don't want to be looking at their gory images all day, which I repeatedly tell them not to post. Do not post the negative parts of your job.
What is it with doctors that love to show that stuff? Tell me, what is like the worst thing you've ever seen when you're building this kind of website?
Oh my God. Luckily, the things that I've seen is not from one of my clients, but a particular surgeon followed me about 5 weeks ago. I looked at his latest post on Instagram, and it was basically an open, I'm going to change the limb. It was an opened up leg where you could see the bone and all of the muscles, and it was pulled apart with using the, I don't know what they call, but like prized apart using like these not pliers, but let's just say pliers. I was just like, oh my God, like none of your patients want to see this.
It's so grim, isn't it? I think it's so tough. We actually, back at, oh God, this is a really long time ago, maybe 7 or 8 years ago, we actually did a website for a doctor, and he specialized in sexually transmitted diseases.
Oh, God.
Yeah, so that was super fun because he was very, very adamant about having images of these infections because he said, you know, my patients, they want to compare, right? So it's like, if I can see, oh, this is what that looks like. Yes, that is an infection. I now need to come and see you. And it was so horrific. I can't even tell you. And I just remember we do a lot of our stock images through Shutterstock. And our developer at the time was looking, obviously searching for graphics to be able to use because he didn't necessarily have like all this imagery. We were trying to hide them away in kind of like the FAQs, so that wasn't like, as soon as you land on the website or anything. But another one of our team members had logged into Shutterstock and was browsing around and was like, what is happening?
Yeah,
because on Shutterstock it shows you the most recently viewed images, and it just became this like huge like,
I know exactly what you mean.
Who is looking for this?
Oh, I know. iStock have the most outrageous surgery, and if you want to laugh, right, go to the gynecologist, type in gynecologist in iStock, right, and you will see the funniest
No, I think it's unnecessary.
I mean nothing, obviously you don't see anything untoward, but literally just do it for the crack, because I guarantee you will laugh. Because
a little pick me up. Got it.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. You won't see anything untoward, but you will, trust me, you will laugh your head off.
Okay, good.
And I don't know any gynecologist that would even have,
think to use this kind of stuff.
No,
yeah. So
absolutely.
What do you do in these situations where you do have clients like this who are like, actually, Cheryl, like it's really important that we do this? Or how do you find you guide your clients when they want to do something that you, for example, don't think is best practice for a web development project?
This is such a great question, because I honestly have to remind my clients, especially the medical ones, a lot about, I was like, you are investing my service, and I'm just, from the beginning, they know that they're going to get honest Cheryl.
Mm-hmm.
If you know me well, then I do not hold back in my thoughts on marketing and my opinion on their copy, their images, everything that comes in. So if there's something that they want to call their name something obscure, or has nothing to do with their business, or something I don't agree with, I will just remind them. I just say, from a marketing point of view, this is going to do nothing for you. And then they look at me and say, well, why? And I'm like, well, because you're not using any of your keywords, or this is a very negative photograph. You always show the end result, not the beginning. So all these photographs of people like, are you in distress? Like, no, you don't show the person in distress. You show the end result, so people feel uplifted by your website or by your marketing, not, so that's quite common. And I just say, and if then they do stress that it's important, I just say, okay, I don't know what you're paying me for then, because you seem to already know this stuff.
Yeah, fair enough. That's good. I mean, I think it's quite impressive to actually listen to you say these sorts of things, where it's like you actually have the confidence to be able to say, you know what, I've done this for 10 years now, so I have this experience and this is what I know. And if you are choosing to work with me, then this is the advice that I am giving you.
Yeah, I even say, if your website is not on my portfolio, at the end of this, then
you'll know why.
You haven't listened to me.
Yeah.
If your website is on my portfolio, then you've listened to me.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, we really want to be on your portfolio. I was like, if you want me to be proud of what I've produced for you, and it sounds harsh. It sounds really harsh and cocky, but the fact that I haven't added it to my portfolio says it all, doesn't it?
Oh, totally. Yeah. Oh, don't get me wrong. I've definitely had clients like that where I'm like, oh, fine, I'll do it. Don't tell anyone that you worked with me.
You even take the link off at the bottom of the page, like, don't come back to me.
There's
because
so many design projects we've worked on where we're like, please do not promote this. Please do not share that you're going against all of our advice.
Exactly. And it happens.
So tricky.
It does happen.
Yeah,
so,
definitely.
Hopefully no more after that speech.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing. I actually find myself preempting now. So I'll say, look, here's a bad experience we had in the past where this client requested this, for a logo design and wanting 13 elements. It's like, no. God. Let's think of the biggest brands in the world. Nike, McDonald's, Apple. Like, how many elements do they have in their design? Let's just try to be a little bit simple about this.
I know. And then they always come back like, yeah, but they're multi-million-pound businesses or billion-pound businesses. And I'm like, yeah, right. Exactly.
Oh dear Lord, love it. Well, let's move on to kind of talking about personal branding, because as you've mentioned there, like, you are quite, you put yourself out there a lot. Like, you let your personality completely shine through everything you do. And you've built the most impressive, social media profile really for yourself. Instagram, I think, is your main profile. Is that right?
Yeah, I would probably say so. Although I am
quite prolific on LinkedIn too.
Yes. Recently, LinkedIn for me has become, the reach is so much bigger now.
Yeah, so good. Yeah. Yeah, and like organic reach, it's like you don't have to do any of that kind of like paid activity. It's just
exactly. And how long is that going to be for? So I'm absolutely taking advantage of that at the moment. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's really good. Well, talk to us about, Instagram is where I see a lot of your content, and I just see so much behind the scenes. You've definitely built a really prolific personal brand. So maybe tell us a little bit about that, how you got to that point, because people are scared, people don't like to put themselves out there. And before I put words in your mouth, why don't you tell me how you feel about that?
No, absolutely. And I was exactly the same. This was back in 2016. Snapchat became quite big, and people were, snapping away, talking to camera. And then Instagram came along and added it to their, added
stories.
Added stories to their, the grid. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. And I sat and watched and observed. And I probably observed for a year, knowing that I wanted to take part, but I didn't. And then in 2017, I was like, right, the thought of doing this fills me with dread. So what I'm going to do is do it anyway.
Love.
But I'm going to do one story a week and see how I feel. So I would do one story a week, and then I was doing one story a day. And then I had, and everyone will get this, where your friends come up to you and say, why are you doing that?
That's everybody's fear, isn't it?
Yes, I had it. And these are my friends. Like, these are not my potential clients. These are just my friends that have a 9-to-5 job, right? So they don't understand why I'm doing this and telling people about my life. And I just say, it's just business. I just said, it's just business. It's just business. And they just went, oh, right. Still didn't understand. I thought, I don't need to justify myself to them. But afterwards, I was like, oh, God, people are starting to ask questions. How embarrassing is this? And I could have stopped there and then. Yeah. I could have totally have stopped. But I knew, I could see the effect stories were having on Instagram. And I knew that I had to just keep carry on, anyway. So
what do you think it does for your business?
Again, it's just creating that, and I don't, that like, know, and trust avenue to people. Think they know, like they really do. They know everything about my life. People are like, oh, how's Sid? Or, oh, you're like, oh, how's your mum? And I'm like, Okay, yeah, of course you know my mum.
Your mum has shared a lot of stories in the last couple of months on your
Absolutely.
Instagram.
Yeah, exactly. You know,
So it's more about like allowing people to see like who you are. So they get to know you, like you, and trust you, and then want to do
yes,
business with you. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because it's, as you know, like it is one of those things that everybody wants to do. I find I speak to a lot of business owners who are like, I want to build my profile. I want to be, prolific on social media, but I don't want to be like this, or I don't want to be like this person. And, they give you this big long list of actually really prolific people on social media. And I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
like that. The thing is, you have to be brave and you have to be bold and you have to be willing to show things off. But I do find that a lot of people have, just as you've mentioned there, that fear of like what their friends are going to say or what they found. And they react, they get one comment from one friend and they go,
all it takes.
remove that post, take that down. Oh, let's not do that again. It's like, oh my God, it's like one person. Like, really?
Yeah.
I mean, what would you say to those people? Just do it. It's not very it's not sort of help break through the barrier. I mean, how do people get through that fear, do you think?
You know what? Again, I normally say to someone, do what I did, do once a week, then do once a day and see how you feel.
Yeah.
I know lots of people, they're like, oh, I hate the sound of my voice. That's usually the first thing they say. Oh, I hate the sound of my voice. And I'm like, it's a known fact. I think there's some stats on, we all hate the sound of our own voice because it's the only voice that we don't hear. We only hear it inside our heads. And we're not used to it, but nobody else feels like that about you.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there's the whole, look, having makeup. Of course, I use filters all the time for that problem.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm just like, oh, whatever, I am who I am. Also, I'm loving the sort of influencers out there now that aren't using the filters. And I'm not. I'm putting my hands up, like I totally am using filters. But I love that aspect because, we're all real people and we all need to come across
towards that sort of real.
Yeah. I mean, we only show the best parts on our social media. Let's be fair. Some people are starting to show the vulnerable sides if they, that they're going through something traumatic. That's up to them. I try and keep things quite positive. That's purely because that's the vibe I want to give. I want to give high energy, high positivity posts because when you sit with me, I don't know if you agree with this, Stacey, but, I am positive and I have got a lot of energy and I have got a lot to give in that respect. But I don't know. I think people just...
you do. I definitely agree with that. You're definitely that person. And, you're a very generous person, I think, with what you give away as well. I think you're always giving a lot of like really quality content. It's always very uplifting. You're sharing funny stories about yourself. Like there's just a lot of positivity. Like it's a joy to watch you, Cheryl.
Oh, thank you, Stacey.
And actually it's kind of, I think it's really important for people to know that, that know, like, and trust, as much as that sounds, like we're just like, oh God, like everybody always talks about this, but it's so important because the more that people can understand, people will watch you for months or years before they actually make a decision to do business with you. And I think it's actually,
Absolutely.
I think you and I met, I'm trying to think, it's not even been a year actually, which is a bit crazy, but it must have been at a breakfast last November. And I was sat next to you and I was like, as soon as you told me your name, I was like, you're quite familiar. And then I heard like Website in a Day, London Web Girl, and I was like, oh my God, I definitely know you. And it's like, I've seen you on social, I've seen, I've heard you on people's podcasts, like, and it's, all of a sudden, all that kind of pieces together for me. And I'm like, great, I kind of get it. And it's just amazing, I think, how much sort of social media can do for your business in that way. I think anybody who's not doing that, how you're getting business in terms of, you can only meet a certain amount of people through, or maybe we'll talk about networking in a second because you actually run your own networking event. But, in terms of, I always say to people, you're willing to show up to this networking event and you'll kind of, work the room for, meet those 20 or 30 people, whatever. But the reality is, if you're at a networking event for 2 hours and there's 30 people, you only have maybe 3 or 4 really decent conversations that you remember and get, 2 or 3 business cards, for example. Whereas when you're doing social, you have that ability to speak to hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of people and get your messaging out there so that people can truly understand you. And if I have met you in person at an event or something, and I go to follow you, I can then completely binge on your life for the next however many months to understand who you are as a person, what you do. I can see these beautiful websites that you have built. I can understand what you do. And then as soon as, you know, whether it's like I'm ready to build a website with you, or I meet someone else at another event who's looking for a web developer, you are front of mind because I literally see you every single day.
Absolutely.
And I think that is the power, isn't it?
I couldn't agree with you more. I did a poll on LinkedIn last week or this week about, you know, what was your very first piece of business and where did you get it from? And I put a poll, social media, networking, or for a friend. Yeah. And I think it was like 60% or like 70% networking and, cold call, 10% cold call, and, you know, the rest was for a friend. Zero social media. But now that's not to say, I mean, people, when I started my business, there was no such thing as Facebook. Yeah, so the people on LinkedIn, it was probably around the time where social wasn't even a thing. Yeah. But it's so important to do the networking. Of course, we've gone virtual now with Bright as of September. But
so wait, tell us about this. Hold on a sec. So we haven't really introed this well. So you run a networking event. It's called Work the Room. So yeah, tell us all about it.
Okay, so I really do love the power of networking and believe in it. Most of my new business comes from networking, and it's the socials that keep me alive. Like exactly what you said before, Stacey. They meet me, then they follow me on social, and then they know all about my life within a few weeks. And I'm hoping that they enjoy the content. If not, then they can always obviously swipe past. Yeah. But like you say, you know, if they're a prolific networker too, then I'll be in the forefront of their mind. So networking to me, I started with BNI back in, I don't even know when, 2008. I've done a lot. And some of them are done extremely well and some of them are done extremely poorly. So I met Liz Robbins, the payroll queen, at BNI all those years ago. And we have networked together ever since. We like the ones, you know, obviously we go to the ones and we know the ones that we like. And then, of course, we've been invited to others because we always go. If we're invited, we'll go. And we were like, oh, God, that was horrendous. So it got to the stage where we did go to a horrendous networking event and we was like, oh, do you know what? Let's just do this. So we contacted Albright, the members club in London, and said we'd like to put on an event for you called Work the Room. So we do that now once a month. But of course, in lockdown, nobody could network, so we took it online. And of course, now we can have people from, you know, we had on our last Work the Room, we had someone from New York. That's cool. We had someone from Ireland. You know, it doesn't matter now. We can all go global.
Yeah, how amazing. Tell us about what's different about your networking event, because obviously we've all been to those horrible networking events that are just either completely boring or have just got those really aggressive salespeople that are just like, business card, give me a business card. And you're just like, oh God, it's so icky and disgusting. So, yes, you know, tell me a little bit, tell us, because I haven't attended one of yours and I'll definitely need to, but what makes you different and what is it that you do?
Okay, so what we think that we did, we took the best aspects from all the different networking events and mushed them together. Nice. So we took the intros from BNI. We're not strict with actually sometimes we are strict with time, but we like to know who's in the room. So there's no point turning up to a Zoom call or a room and not knowing who's in the room. Sure. So we do like to know. No pitching at this stage. It's just really like, you know, what you do and how you can help people. Yeah. We then go into a 10-minute speaker So, or we might have a discussion, and again, it will always be around positivity. So last week's, or when was it? No, Tuesday's Work the Room, we spoke about the one positive thing that's come out of lockdown for you, regardless of obviously how it's affected you financially. So, we discussed that. And again, it's about being uplifting and positive. And then we took the one-to-one session. So we go into breakout rooms, and you can request who you want to have a one-to-one with. That is a 10-minute. So we do 3 10-minute one-to-ones. And we took that from 4N because we loved that part.
Yeah, okay.
And then we come out of the networking and we do a referral round, which is basically how we can help you round. And people that can then say, I'm doing a LinkedIn course on Thursday, would love you to attend, share comments, blah, blah, blah. And I'm frantically writing down all of the bits and pieces of what everyone would like.
Yeah.
That came from a networking event called the EAGB, which Liz and I attend quite a lot. It's also a good one in London.
Yeah.
And, so we just took the best bits, and, we're really strict with time, but it's really efficient. And if that appeals to you, then jump on board.
Yeah,
but,
definitely. I will definitely attend.
If you prefer the more relaxed.
No, it sounds really good. And this is the thing. I think that's, again, I feel like we're not really like rule type girls, but I feel like I kind of like rules in this instance, where there's kind of like, here's what's going to happen, guys. And it's going to be like this and this and this, and there's going to be an outcome, because I think there isn't anything worse than showing up to something and just not understanding the format, or it not being, I don't know, made to feel uncomfortable. We've all been to those events where either someone pounces on you and you literally can't escape and it's just like awful, or that you walk into a room and nobody speaks to you. And even when you try to inject yourself into conversation, it's all very like clicky or whatever. And I just think those are the sorts of things that are just so off-putting. And I think that's where sometimes networking gets a bit of a bad rap. And I know so many people who just dislike it. I'm a people person, so I'm very much like, oh, hi, like, want to come and meet you. Like, I'll inject myself in here and I'll do whatever I need to do. And, I guess when you're a chatty person, like, then it's easy enough to do that. But if you're not, and a lot of very successful business owners are not that way, they need those kind of environments that gives them the opportunity to have a bit of visibility. So I love that, being able to start by introducing yourself, because so many people would sit back and observe and, not actually get that much value out of it because they're perhaps a bit shyer than, you or me, for example. So
yes, absolutely.
Brilliant.
Having a little bit of structure, we are quite structured actually, but having that structure in place, you're still going to really connect with those 3 people that you choose to have that one-to-one with, and with all the with all the how I can help you. So I say in my email, like, we want to help you throughout the month, not just in the 2 hours that we have at Work the Room. So
well, it's kind of amazing.
It's good fun.
Yeah, it sounds like it. It sounds really, really good. Thanks for sharing that. Okay, so as we kind of like move towards the end of the episode, like, let's go back to websites a little bit, and maybe let's talk about some top website tips, because I think this is, a lot of people who are either building their website for the first time or are about to revamp because, they've pivoted or have a new offer or something. What are the must-haves? What would be your couple of pieces of advice, or just things that you're just like, here are the thing that makes the website just ace?
The opening hero image is what we call it on your website. So the first thing somebody sees when they land on your website needs to be uplifting and professionally done, and it needs to be memorable. I can't stress it enough. Some people say, oh, I've just popped that in for now because it's the only thing I can do. And I'm like, you don't just pop things in.
Yeah.
And really think about it, really think about your imagery. And I understand that the whole web process thinks that, it's not just the website, it's the copy, it's the photography. But that's what people, when people invest in a website, they don't realise that everything else has to come together to make it a whole package. When you do invest in your web design, do think about the photography and the copywriting, because it all comes together to make everything brilliant. So white space as well. I have lots of clients asking me, oh, can you bunch that up a bit? And I'm like, no, there's no bunching up. no, that's not a thing,
Yeah.
Oh yeah, but then people might not think. This is what people say this to me a lot. I don't know if you get this, Stacey. People don't know to scroll. Yeah, yes, they freaking do. Yeah, we are living in a scrolling world. Our phones, our laptops, our tablets, like as if people. It's just so common. It's so
really
common.
I haven't heard that before. That's so funny.
Have you not had? Oh, what if people don't know that to scroll down? I'm like, oh, they know to scroll. Oh, there's a lot of white space there, and I'm like, yeah, there is.
Yeah,
Can we bunch it up a bit? Bunch it up.
Well, it's like even if you speak to like photographers, they're always talking about having negative space in an image and how much more powerful that makes that image. So that makes total sense for a website too, to be able to have that, that white space you can actually absorb. There's nothing worse than clutter.
Oh, absolutely. It just looks like a cluttered mess. So white space, the hero image, make it professional. Don't have too many fonts because, well, no, it's just a big no-no. I mean, keep things really simple. And if in doubt, for people that haven't got a lot of money to invest in a website, I always tell them to go, if you've got no money, go black and white and go really simple font and really clean white spaces, and it will look like you have spent a fortune on it. Because people think that you need to have lots of elements to a website in order for it, to get your money's worth. But actually it's the opposite. The less you have in terms of design, the more upmarket,
the more elegant it is. And
I mean, that's not to say that it can't have an upmarket design and have lots of aspects to it, but if people haven't got the money for that, then just go really clean.
Sure.
So I love lead magnets. They're really important into getting people on a list so that you can actually market it.
Let's explain that a little bit
to an audience that's actually interested. So a lead magnet is, I don't know, you probably see them as a pop-up, or that's something, it will say, sign up to receive my free guide on the winning formula to a #1 website. Grab it now. And you'd be like, oh, that'd be fantastic. So you pop in your name and your email address, and then in return, they will send you the formula to the #1 website to have a winning website or something like that.
So I guess to all of our listeners, please note that Cheryl has not said sign up to our newsletter.
I haven't got a #1 guide, so
no, but it has kind of been like, I think that's a really good point. I don't know if a lot of people always say, oh, let's put a newsletter sign up here. I'm like, who signs up to a newsletter? Like, honestly, unless you're going to give me something of really, really high value, it's just almost non-existent. I don't know if you've experienced that. Do you agree? Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, goodness. Absolutely. Don't bother saying sign up to any. Just don't waste your time. Don't waste your time. And a web designer would normally do it just purely because
you've told them
to. Extra, you told them to. Like, I want this. Okay. Well, what about I tell you what you should have rather than you tell me what you want? That's if you've got a web designer that's just saying yes to everything, you're going wrong. You're not getting the value that you need. You need to be told by your web designer rather than you tell them. Sorry.
It's interesting. No, it's good. Sorry, I was just going down the line of thought around that, because I was just kind of thinking, like, I've definitely worked with web developers before where they literally just do, we want this. Okay, here you go. We want this. Okay, here you go. They don't often challenge. And I actually have found working with some developers that they don't actually have a marketing head. It's very much like they have a coding development background. And so they don't necessarily always think about how this is supposed to perform. It's just very much like we build a site,
do the job.
And it's always, I think clients often get quite confused, even with SEO as well, because often people will think, oh, website SEO, but unfortunately it is actually not the same thing. A lot of web developers actually don't know anything about SEO and actually don't develop sites to be optimized for the search results. And these are the sorts of things that I think are important for people to be aware of, so that you're asking the right questions.
So true.
When you go into doing a project like that. Okay, so we've got hero image, we've got obviously really good, decent copywriting and images, white space, simple, lead magnets.
Your free call to actions, or if, like myself, you've got one service that you offer, then you have one call to action. Mine is website in a day, so it's very easy to sell. The reason why I say 3 call to actions is purely because psychologically people go with the middle package or the middle section, because that's why you always see those, when you're going to buy a piece of software, always the middle one is always says most popular.
Yeah, and it's
there's a reason behind that. This is my big bugbear there is telephone number needs to be really clear. Don't let that customers go searching for your telephone number and your email address, your contact details. Make that really stand out. Put it on the homepage if you have to. Put it in the top. Put it on your menu structure. And there's loads more, but off the top of my head, your price. Put your price on your website, please.
Yeah.
There's nothing worse than getting inquiries and losing those inquiries because you're either A, too expensive, or you're B, too cheap.
Yeah.
Put your price on your website. People know if they're going to inquire or not, and you will half your admin.
Yeah, that's really
or you won't get any inquiries at all.
Yeah, I've actually heard you share, I think it's a really good advice because a lot of people are really nervous about that. But I think it does help because I'm guilty of that. I'll look at a website and I'll assume they're too expensive. So I won't actually even inquire because I just think, actually, I probably can't really afford that. But actually, if you see the price, you're suddenly like, oh, okay, well, either that is too expensive. So no, I'm not going to bother contacting them. Therefore, you don't have all that admin responsibility. Or actually you're like, wow, that's way more reasonable than I had worked up in my head. So this is a no-brainer. So I think that's really good advice. And actually, you and I did a webinar together recently with a couple of other agency owners, which was really fun. And a piece of advice you shared on that, which was so good, which was about FAQ. So I think you'd mentioned that having an FAQ can be so valuable to your website.
Yes.
Well, maybe you explain it rather than me telling everybody what you told me.
Yeah, absolutely. No, absolutely. So FAQs are obviously all the questions that you've been asked over the years. How long does it take? Again, right on there, how much is this going to cost? Is there ongoing maintenance support packages? Are there blah, 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 blah? Do you all go, I'm only obviously saying it from my point of view, do you offer SEO? Do you offer this? So having an FAQs page is going to eliminate more admin again. You can also, if someone asks a question, you can point them over to your, FAQs page. If you can do a video also answering these questions on your FAQ page, then you'll get even more big ticks from me.
Yeah.
And there's a great software called Hotjar, which will show you the most important or the most clicked on.
Oh, heat map.
Yes, the heat map. So obviously with Google Analytics, you don't know what's the most popular FAQs or the most clicked on FAQ because it's on a page. Obviously at Google Analytics only look
it's
at
like on page, yeah. So unless it's a click through, you don't really see it.
Exactly. Of course, you can get kind of an idea if you did a video on how many video views that you get. But it's great to use that little tool called Hotjar just to see which is the most popular FAQ. And then, of course, you can elaborate on that. You can add to it, or you can actually write a blog on it.
Yeah, I loved that. That's what I heard you share on the last webinar that we did. Was like, I thought that was so good. And it actually reminded me that I'm like, God, I really need to look at that because, yeah, if you can look at your results over the last 3 to 6 months and go, cool, actually, you know what? This topic is the thing that everybody is looking at. Then you can write blog posts, you can do video content, you can create a download.
You might even need to create another page from it. Like maybe this
you might have a new product offering.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So good. Love that, Cheryl. Thank you for sharing. All right, so as we come to the end of the episode, is there any final points or any advice that you would like to share with our listeners?
I would definitely say give your stories, give live videos a go, give yourself a challenge that once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week, build yourself up, get yourself in front of the camera rather than behind the camera, because this is honestly the best way to grow your business before and after networking. so that we can go global, guys. We can all go global.
Yes.
And then secondly, right? And then secondly, in terms of websites and choosing the right web designer for yourself, just make sure you're not calling the shots. Make sure you challenge your web designer back and ask them what you should be doing, rather than you telling the person that you've, invested all that time and money in, what's going on with your site. So that's my
good advice.
Take-homes.
I love that. How can people connect with you, Cheryl? What's the best way for our listeners to get in touch with you?
You can find me on all social channels as a London Web Girl.
Mm-hmm.
LinkedIn, I'm Cheryl Laidlow. And if you're interested in my website in a day, all my handles are Website in a Day UK.
Love it. We'll link all of that in our show notes as well. So thank you, Cheryl. I really appreciate your time that you've given us today and all your helpful advice and sharing all of these stories. It's been so good. I've really appreciated it. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. We'll see you soon.
Take care. Bye.
Oh, I love that. How fun was this episode with Cheryl? So a couple of my attention grabbers from today's episode. Attention grabber number 1. Systems and processes. It's one of those things that I feel like for many of us at work, sort of in a creative field like marketing, like web development, design, process and systems aren't that exciting. But as Cheryl very clearly demonstrated today, having a really good process in place is the best way to be the most efficient business possible. So I guess my takeaway from this is, what other processes could I be looking at in my business and with my team to get this on track? I did want to make 2020 the year of processes for us. And so I really need to get that back on track. I hope you've taken something away from that and think about the different systems and processes you have that enable your business to grow, because the more systematic things are, the easier it will be to scale. My second attention grabber was around personal branding. So as Cheryl and I discussed, she is very prolific across different social media channels. So specifically LinkedIn and Instagram. So I'm watching her Instagram stories every single day. She's really showing us a day in the life of. We see lots of behind the scenes. And it's just such a powerful thing for bringing business over the line. So I hear a lot of feedback from people where they say, oh, I don't know, whether my, Instagram gets me actual business. And I am one of those people who sometimes says that too. However, one observation that I've made over the last couple of months, or at least the last 4 clients that we have signed, are clients that I have been connected with on Instagram. So I'm often finding LinkedIn as a really good lead generation tool for me. That's where a lot of people come across my podcast and my business and the agency and everything that we do. I will then have some kind of interaction with them, either over the phone or via email. And then I will go and follow them on Instagram and let them watch what I'm doing. And that has a really powerful thing. And the last 4 clients we've actually signed have converted. Not saying just because of what I'm doing on Instagram, but certainly being able to give them that visibility as to what's happening behind the scenes, I think helps to build so much trust. And people really feel like they get to know you. So it's very easy for them to make a decision to do business with you. And then my third attention grabber from today's episode, well, really just at the end there, where Cheryl walked us through all those essentials for a website. So having a really great hero image, something that's memorable, packs a punch, makes an impact. Decent copywriting. This is obviously a pet peeve for lots of marketers. So make sure you've got a really good copywriter working with you to produce that. White space. I love that she said this, not bunching stuff together, because I see it a lot across websites and it's really quite upsetting. So white space, just really thinking about lead magnets. Once people do visit the site, what are you offering them? What are they supposed to do? Having strong calls to action. Really thinking that through is a must. And what I thought was really brilliant about what Cheryl shared with us today is that as a web developer, what we should be expecting from our web developers is for them to be guiding us and actually pushing us if we're asking for something that we don't think is going to be good for their business. Because that, I think it's quite brave. As we kind of joked about on the podcast, it's not something that I always find super easy to do with clients, because sometimes it is easier to say yes, but that is certainly the wrong attitude. And I loved that Cheryl shared that, and that she will say, you know what, this is actually not going to do well. This is not going to help your website perform. I suggest you do this. And if you choose to override me, fine. but she wants to be really proud of the work that she does, and her websites truly are beautiful. So I absolutely love that. So huge thanks to Cheryl for joining us today. Make sure you check out the show notes, follow her on all of your social media platforms, and join us next week for the next episode.